Hey there, welcome to the hard sell, where the stick over by the swill-bucket rattles back. And today we're going right back there, right back to the day right over the ocean too, to 1964 in the United States for a hip swinging have a break.
Have a break.
That's what I said. I said that. Did you hear me say that? Alright, enough of that. But today's wobbly black and white episode comes from the furthest I've ever gone in time, and pretty far in geography too. An episode of the Joey Bishop Show in 1964. May the 2nd, for what it's worth. While the footage I have is some shaky black and white muggins, which might prove hard to look at over the course of the episode, fair warning, it was actually made and broadcast in colours.
The following program is brought to you in living color on NBC.
See? The adverts probably were too. Since it is on NBC, I assume it's the sitcom, where he plays a late-night talk show host, and not the actual late-night talk show he actually hosted, of the same title, which was on ABC. Of course, vanishingly few programs survive from back in the mid-60s, let alone the stuff in between, especially from Britain. America's more sprawling television industry has somewhat fuller archives. And that's far from the only difference. They also had sponsored television long before we did, and as a nonchalant matter of course.
The Joey Bishop Show is brought to you by Helena Rubinstein's Tintillate Home Hair Coloring and Long Lash Mascara.
The Joey Bishop Show on NBC, for instance, was sponsored by some cosmetics. Helena Rubinstein, specifically. A sort of American Coco Chanel without the Nazi collaboration, and at that time one of the richest women in the world, thanks to her gargantuan cosmetics company, which in 1964 was staffed largely by her own family and still run by the woman herself with an iron fist at the age of 91, despite being increasingly too frail to get out of bed. You'll notice the sponsor's message has been pretty much destroyed by time and video quality. I think they were going for a tasteful minimalist sort of thing, all very chic, with the name in crispy Helvetica next to 2 boxes of hair colour and mascara. But what we've got here is so bleached out and wobbly that the bottles are barely discernible as such, and the whole thing is dragged into the realms of abstraction. It looks like one of Piet Mondrian's more sexually charged works. The fade out at the end momentarily brings me to something resembling focus. Let's have a look at that. There we are. That's what we were looking at all along, and if anything, the mascara box is even more yonic. Fortunately, the adverts themselves are much easier to make out. And you'll never guess what the first one was for.
Eyes make the news. Flash from Helena Rubinstein. Never before has there been anything like long lash. Helena Rubinstein's new discovery.
In Britain, sponsored programming has rarely gone beyond the message before and after commercial breaks. This is America, however, and America in 1964, so this is hardcore. There's no escape from the Helena Rubinstein Company.
The first mascara and lash builder in one. It actually adds length and thickness to your lashes as it colors.
Adverts were much more direct in those days, even in America when they'd had them for longer. Hire someone to hold up the product and explain why it's so great while pointing at it and smiling. This being an advert for cosmetics, the smiler is as good-looking and well-groomed a woman as they could get, which, being one of the biggest cosmetic companies in America at the time, was considerable. Top it off with a demonstration and you're golden.
Long lash is automatic. As you apply it, your lashes get longer. They don't just look longer, they actually are longer, measurably longer. Long Lash by Helena Rubinstein. And now, Helena Rubinstein revolutionizes home hair coloring.
Oh yeah, got to advertise the other thing as well.
With new Tintillate, the permanent hair color you just shampoo in.
Or you could just slaughter a mink and wear that on your head. Rubinstein was an innovator, and sold herself and the company that bore her name on that fact. She was often seen, sometimes within advertising itself, wearing a long white lab coat and peering at a test tube, even though she barely knew the first thing about chemistry. She was a businesswoman, not a scientist, selling was her forte, and she innovated the advertising industry as much as the cosmetics one. It was her company that first used staples of the form such as the science bit, and naked appeals to the customer's insecurity. Fear copy, she called it. Concepts such as problem skin were unheard of before Helena came along offering to cure it for cash. Obviously she didn't invent hair colouring. The ancient Celts used to do it by washing it with lime until it was bleached white, and presumably their scalps were agonising chemical burn calderas. But then they were tough. Other less painful ways were developed down the centuries out of plants like henna and indigo, or just by rubbing some charcoal into it. L'Oreal patented the first synthetic hair dye, and Rubinstein's racily named Tintellate was the first that you could just shampoo in. You did have to provide your own peroxide, but it was still a major leap forward.
Simply mix Tintellate with peroxide. There's no sectioning, so the color looks even, natural. 18 shades to change your hair color, lighten it, darken it, cover gray completely. Tintellate, permanent hair color you just shampoo in, by Helena Rubinstein.
No need to shout.
By Helena Rubinstein.
Okay, but surely there must have been some other things available in 1964 America. Helena Rubinstein didn't pay for the entire show after all. She wasn't even its only sponsor, as you'll see. Other products could be advertised too, like, I don't know.
How many times a day do you take the time to really enjoy the pleasure of a cigarette?
Tobacco. Even America has pretty extensive restrictions on advertising cancer sticks these days, at least by American standards, since the Obama administration passed the Tobacco Control Act in 2009. You can still advertise the things across the United States, but you're no longer allowed to depict things. Any things. Just white on black text and a neutral voiceover. I haven't been able to find any evidence of anyone trying this yet. In the mid-60s, however, dying at 60 was considered a natural part of American masculinity, so there was no reason not to advertise the things. And this is very much a man's cigarette we're dealing with here, although not in the milder sense. These are more like Ward Cleaver's cigarettes, or even Ward Cleaver's dad's cigarettes. This, as you'll see, is the 50s raging against the dying of the light.
How many times a day do you take the time to really enjoy the pleasure of a cigarette?
Can I choose another category?
Well, for me, I light up only when I have time to enjoy what I'm smoking.
Well, smoking is evolved to this guy.
Like now, when I can sit back and have a Kent.
Whoa, hey, let's keep it FCC approved here.
Kent is especially created for this kind of smoking. You see, Kent combines the world's finest quality tobaccos with the world's most famous filter to give you the best combination of filter and satisfying taste.
These are some serious fucking cigarettes.
With this kind of satisfaction, you can afford to take time and enjoy each cigarette. Enjoy the good taste of Kent's premium tobaccos that come through this exclusive micronite filter.
I feel like he's going to ask me to shake his hand with my thumb on the underside of his index finger or something.
And Kent's smoking satisfaction lasts until you have the time to enjoy another Kent. If this kind of smoking makes sense to you,
then subscribe to our newsletter, or drop into one of our friendly local offices. We'll even throw in a free pair of cufflinks and an e-meter reading.
Then you can see why Kent satisfies best.
Serious business. Serious cigarettes for serious men, for whom smoking is neither a vice nor a hobby, but a solemn ritual that must take place under very specific conditions, in the correct room, with the correct lighting, and the correct costume, which obviously means a tweed smoking jacket. In a way, he's lucky, because this psychotically rigid ceremonial rite is probably preventing him from being a 30-a-day man.
Kent satisfies best.
Mustang.
Spoiler warning, these are the other sponsors of the Joey Bishop Show, as revealed by the bumper immediately after this advert.
The Joey Bishop Show was brought to you by Ford, who brings you the unexpected, the new Ford Mustang.
And when he says new, he means new. This is the original launch of the iconic horse car, one of Ford's most famous and popular models, and still being manufactured today in its 6th generation. Even as a kid, I was aware of the Ford Mustang and how it was supposedly just pretty awesome in the main. So what are they selling it on here at its birth?
A brilliant new breed of car. Tiffany & Company, for generations a symbol of beauty and elegance.
Can they get along in the suburbs? Now you might be wondering what on earth Tiffany's has to do with the Ford Mustang. Good question.
Now Tiffany, who never before honored any automobile, has honored the Ford Mustang with this gold medal award.
What?
For excellence in American design.
But what?
Mustang, excitingly versatile, unexpected.
No, come back to the bit where you're showing off a jeweler's has given you an award. What sense are we making here?
Now Tiffany, who never before honored any automobile.
Or anything else, for that matter, because they're a jewellery firm and not the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences.
Has honored the Ford Mustang with this gold medal award for excellence in American design.
Okay, it's not quite as random as it looks. It apparently was a legit award, sort of. Googling for it returns almost exclusively nothing but information about the Mustang winning it in 1964. But apparently IBM also won one 2 years later. And the Tiffany Foundation does provide grants for design and such like to this day. Still and all, I can't help but suspect that this fantastic gold medal was cooked up on Madison Avenue as an experiment in cross-promotion.
Mustang.
Anyway, it goes on, because adverts were longer in those days. There were fewer distractions and longer attention spans. American commercials in particular like to spend a long second act on some quasi-poetic copy about the product in question, like this.
Excitingly versatile, unexpectedly practical, with a wide list of options to make it even more luxurious or give it even more sports car performance.
Less of that meant anything than you'd think.
This is Mustang, an unexpected car at an unexpected price. Only $2,368 FOB Detroit. And that includes luxury features that are available only at extra cost in many other cars.
To be fair, selling a car on its relative cheapness was a bit of a novelty back then. Incidentally, FOB Detroit means free on board. It basically means not including shipping.
An unexpected car at an unexpected price.
Or alternatively, more or less exactly what you'd expect at a price that, at least in those days, won't surprise you in the least. And isn't that the most surprising thing of all? Of course it is not.
See the unexpected. The new Ford Mustang, now at your Ford dealers.
The Joey Bishop Show.
Yes, America 1964 was a more languid, sophisticated place than now. A place where you could spend a full minute describing smoking cigarette like a combination of erotic fiction and contract law. Where cars win medals from jewellery stores. And where a woman's greatest fear is whatever Helena Rubinstein says it is today. Dry skin, short lashes, completely unacceptable hair colour, whatever. Truly a utopian moment in American history, at least for white people. And a historically important one too. This break came from the last moment of relative calm before Vietnam. Exactly 3 months later, North Vietnamese torpedo ships would shoot at a US destroyer in the Gulf of Tonkin, starting a chain of events that led to America getting itself directly involved in an unwinnable guerrilla war which would psychologically scar the entire nation ever since, in ways it never really recovered from. Not that it was all peace and quiet on the home front, what with the civil rights movement going on. And this was only a few months after 4 little girls were murdered in Birmingham, Alabama, after all. But you'd be surprised at how easy it is for white people to ignore that sort of thing, as long as it's not affecting them directly. Maybe you wouldn't.
It's all a state of mind, whether or not you find that place down there or heaven. In the meantime, EO, EO 11, EO 11, EO 11.
You've been watching a Bob the Fish production. Thanks! If you haven't found it already, be sure to check out our website at bobthefish.org.uk. Literally hundreds of videos not unlike this one that will make you laugh, think and realise new things or your money back. Which works out great because they're all absolutely free. All of this is possible thanks to the not unique way that Bob the Fish productions are paid for by you, the viewing public, via Patreon. For a donation of as little as £1 a month, not only do you ensure that I still have food and shelter so I can carry on making these programmes, but you could become eligible for a whole host of cool extras. New video essays, special event live streams, all my content a week in advance, and my book on the history of the BBC, Rule the Waves, chapter by chapter as it's written. And some cake, if you go out and buy a cake and eat it while you're watching. And if you don't want to support on a monthly basis, you can make a one-off donation via coffee. It all helps stave off scurvy. bobthefish.org.uk. You make it what it is.